What would you do if you were told that behind one specific door laid everything you ever dreamed of? Your perfect career, the love of your life, and the peace you've been searching for. Would you wait for it? Would you wait for a week? A month? A year? Today, I want to tell you the story of Samuel, a man who didn't just wait for a month. He spent 3,000 days, nearly 8 years of his life, standing in front of a door that never opened. You might think this is a story about a wasted life. You might think Samuel was a fool. But by the time we reach the end of this journey, you'll realize that Samuel found something much more powerful than what was behind that door. If you feel like you're waiting for your life to finally start, you need to hear this. Samuel was a man who felt like he was always almost successful. He was talented, but never the best. He was kind, but often overlooked. He felt like a background character in his own life. One day, while traveling through the high mountains, he heard a legend about the Silver Gate. The story said that high up on the peak of silence, there was a door carved into the mountain itself. It didn't open for everyone. It only opened for those who proved they were worthy through the ultimate test, the test of patience. The legend promised that whoever walked through that door when it opened would find their perfect destiny. Samuel was 30 years old. He looked at his life, his average job, his small apartment, his quiet existence, and he made a choice. He packed a small bag, left a note for his family, and climbed. When he reached the top, he found it, the Silver Gate. It was beautiful, made of cold, shimmering metal, set deep into the gray stone of the mountain. There was no handle. There was no keyhole. There was only a small stone bench across from it. Samuel sat down. He looked at his watch. He told himself, "I will stay here until my life begins. I am tired of being average. I am ready for my destiny." The first 100 days were the easiest. Samuel was full of hope. He spent his time imagining what was behind the door. Was it a kingdom? Was it a library of all the world's secrets? Was it a version of himself that was finally happy? He ate the dried fruits he brought, drank from a nearby mountain spring, and waited. Other travelers would pass by occasionally. They would see him sitting there and ask, "What are you doing?" Samuel would say with a smile, "I'm waiting for the door to open." Most people laughed. Some stayed for an hour, got bored, and left. A few stayed for a week, but the silence of the mountain eventually drove them away. They wanted results. They wanted the door to open now. But Samuel stayed. By day 500, the seasons had changed twice. The summer sun scorched his skin, and the winter snow covered his shoulders like a heavy white blanket. Samuel grew thin. His hair grew long and gray. His clothes became rags. He started to talk to the door. He would whisper, "I'm still here. I haven't given up. See? I'm worthy. Open up." But the Silver Gate remained shut. It didn't move an inch. It didn't make a sound. By day 1,000, the doubt began to bite harder than the cold. Samuel began to wonder if the legend was a lie. He began to wonder if his family had forgotten him. He thought about the life he left behind, the average life that now seemed so warm and comfortable compared to this frozen peak. But then he thought, if I leave now, the last 1,000 days meant nothing. I have to stay. I've already sacrificed too much to go back to being nobody. This is the trap many of us fall into. We stay in bad situations or we wait for things that aren't happening simply because we are afraid to admit that the time we have already spent was for nothing. Samuel reached day 2,000, then 2,500. He was no longer the man who had climbed the mountain. He was a shadow. He was a part of the landscape. His hands were calloused from building a small stone shelter. His mind was sharp from hours of meditation. He had learned the language of the birds. He knew exactly where the sun would hit the rocks at any hour of the day. Finally, the morning of the 3,000th day arrived. Samuel woke up and felt a strange energy in the air. This is it, he thought. 3,000. a perfect number. Today, the door opens. He stood in front of the silver gate. He washed his face in the spring. He straightened his tattered clothes. He waited. The sun rose to the center of the sky. Nothing. The sun began to set, casting long orange shadows across the mountain. Nothing. The stars came out, cold and distant. The door did not move. Samuel fell to his knees. He began to sob. For the first time in 8 years, he let out a scream that echoed across the entire mountain range. He pounded his fists against the cold silver metal until his knuckles bled. "I gave you everything," he screamed at the door. "I gave you my youth. I gave you my time. Why won't you open?" He cried until he had no tears left. He lay on the cold ground, exhausted, expecting to feel like a complete failure. He expected to feel like his life was over. But as he lay there in the silence, something strange happened. He noticed the strength in his own arms. He noticed how his lungs felt deep and powerful, even in the thin mountain air. He noticed how the darkness didn't scare him anymore. He realized that for 8 years, he hadn't just been waiting. He had survived the harshest winters alone. He had mastered his own mind. He had found peace in the silence. He looked at the silver gate one last time. He realized it wasn't a door. It was just a mirror. It was a reflection of his own obsession with a perfect life that didn't exist. Samuel stood up. He didn't look at the door anymore. He turned his back to it. He looked down the mountain. For the first time in 3,000 days, he wasn't looking at a cold piece of metal. He was looking at the vast, beautiful world. He realized that his destiny wasn't behind a door. His destiny was the man he had become while he was waiting. He was no longer the average man who was afraid of being overlooked. He was a man who had conquered himself. He began to walk down the mountain. He didn't run. He walked with a steady, confident pace. When he finally reached the village at the bottom, people didn't see a failure who wasted 8 years. They saw a man with eyes full of wisdom and a spirit that couldn't be broken. Samuel didn't need the silver gate to open to give him a perfect life. He went on to build a life of his own, teaching others about patience, about the strength found in silence, and about the danger of waiting for a permission to be happy. My friends, how many of us are standing in front of a silver gate right now? Maybe you're waiting for a specific person to change so you can finally be happy. Maybe you're waiting for a perfect job to fall into your lap before you start working on your passion. Maybe you're waiting for the right time to start living. We spend so much time waiting for life to open a door for us that we forget we are the ones holding the key. The 3,000 days Samuel spent weren't a waste, but his mistake was thinking the door was the prize. The prize was the strength he built while he was standing there. Stop waiting for a door that won't open. Turn around, look at the world behind you. You already have everything you need to build your own path. Don't let your life be a story of waiting. Make it a story of walking.